Greetings of the day, students. My name is Lakshman Jajodia, and we are here for online lecture, video lecture of Business Finance Second for BCom 6th semester. Till last video, we have completed with our first unit, and now we will move to our second unit, which will basically deal with primary market, secondary market, stock exchange, and the last component would be capital budgeting. In this particular video lecture, we will start with what is primary market and its definition, what are its function, what is its scope. We will discuss all these things in short so that we could have idea that what is primary market. So starting with the definition of primary market, it is that part of capital market where new securities are issued. These securities are usually offered to the public for the first time, and that is why it is also known as new issue market. Here buyer and seller can negotiate with each other, that is company and investor can execute the transaction of sale and purchase without any kind of intermediary. They can directly execute the transaction. That is what is written in the second definition also. The market where new securities are offered to sale through IPO. IPO is initial public offer. Initial means first time that we are offering our security to the public, and where buyer and seller negotiate and transact business directly without any intermediary. Such market is known as primary market. It means that whenever a company is offering security in the stock market for the first time, it would go to the primary market. Here they would not need any kind of intermediary. They can directly transact with their what we can say prospective investors. That is what is the definition of the primary market. That is why it is known as new issue market, because here new securities are issued to the investors for the first time. Therefore, it is known as new issue market. Speaking on the part of primary market, here companies usually go for raising capital for the purpose of its operation. Various times you have read in the newspapers or in the news headlines or in bulletins that a IPO of a company is going to be listed in the market. Usually they are going to list into the capital market. That is why they go to primary market for the purpose of listing of the IPO. That is what is in relation with the primary market definition. Now we will move to the second part, that is functions of the primary market. What are the main functions for the functioning of the primary market? What they actually do in the what we can say primary market, that is what we are going to discuss here. The very first function of the primary market is the organization of the new issue. When we call about the new issue, first of all, as a company, we have to send a proposal to the respective market where we have to list ourselves, where we have to provide all the details regarding to our issue, and there all the the proposal is minutely monitored and analyzed in terms of the nature of the security, the size of the issue, issued timing, and the flotation method of the issue by the company. All these things are minutely scrutinized by the respective stock exchange or market. Usually we have to provide various details in this proposal. We have the organization of new issue requires investigation of viability. That means how much viable our project and prospects of new projects would be, what would be its key financial arrangements, or how we are going to answer about the financial things. All these things are to be here discussed to be here and provided in the proposal. Along with this, structure of financial arrangement involves requirements and availability of promoters equity which we are going to collect from the public, debt equity ratio, okay, how much debt we have taken and what is our equity in the particular ratio. Then what are our short term funds, what would be our liquidity, and other things which we have to mention. All these things which we have provided in the proposal are carefully studied by of new issue by the competent and well trained staff of the respective authorities. They kind of go through all these kind of things so that there would be proper and what we can say proper and whole checking of our proposal, so that there would not be any kind of mischievous or what we can say misrepresentation of any information in the thing. That is why this organization of new issue is the primary function or the first function of the primary market. Second, when we talk about the function, is the underwriting of the issue. Now we have to understand the word underwriting or underwriter. When we can say that underwriting is a kind of guarantee which is usually undertaken by an institution or firm of brokers, ensuring that the marketability of the issue. It means that they take the guarantee that X number of shares which are being promised or guaranteed by them would be what we can say would be sold to the public. Otherwise, if they fail to sell those shares, they would be entitled to purchase it compulsorily. That is what is the underwriting. This method, in this method, usually underwriter acts as a guarantor and makes a promise to buy a certain quantity of stock in case if he fails to sell those stocks to the public. Hence, the underwriter is usually entitled to get commission for his work or for in the new issue. But as we have discussed in the previous unit that after the various amendments and made by the SEBI or regulations issued by the SEBI, this underwriting has been made optional, so that there would be cost cutting by way of reducing the part of the commission which is been in the what we can say underwriting of new issue. And here, but the thing is that in underwriting, underwriter promises that if X amount of share would be sold by underwriter, that can be a firm of brokers or an institution of the that would be sold to the public. And if the underwriter fails to sold those promised quantity of shares to the public, then he or the underwriter would be responsible, or his firm would be responsible for buying that amount of shares from the issuing company. This is what is the second function of the primary market. Mostly underwriting of new issue is undertaken by a group of financial institutions, because the size of issue is normally quite big and the promising amount is usually high. Now moving to the third function is the distribution of the new issue. This is the third function of the primary market, that they would distribution here means distribution here means function of sale of shares or debentures. We have already said that here in primary market, company usually comes for the purpose of say first time for the purpose of gathering capital either by debt or equity. So it can be here distribution can be the function of sales of shares or debentures. It can be either of so to the investors, and this function is usually performed by brokers or agents which are appointed by the company, because they usually they can establish a direct contact with their clients. So distribution of new share means sale of stock by the company or their appointed agents or stockbrokers to the public. That is what is the third function of the primary market. Next is the issue of prospectus. We all know that prospectus is a document which company usually issues for the purpose of what we can say encouraging investors by informing them about the company, its prospects, its financials and its future plan. That is what is written in the prospectus. Usually this prospectus is to be issued to the public, but this prospectus is to be priorly submitted to the registrar of the company. The registrar goes thoroughly through this prospectus so that there would not be any misrepresentation or misinformation in the prospectus from either of the part of the company or anyone else. So the issue is sold to the public by issuing of prospectus. Prospectus is an invitation to the public by the company to purchase its share by that issue. That is what is the simple definition of prospectus. The issue of prospectus to public is done through advertisement, which can be in newspapers as what we can say as asked by the SEBI, and it gives complete details about the company, its issue, its underwriter and else part. Next function of the primary market is to provide the liquidity. How primary market provides the liquidity? It is the market where company can come and sell its what we can say new securities or new shares or debentures for the first time to the investors, and by this way the investor can bring up their savings and give it to the company in exchange of the shareholding and its parameter, and in this way it provides liquidity to the company so that they could raise the capital for the purpose of their operations and for the purpose of running of their business or making that savings into more profitable and more productive use. This is what is the function of the primary market. Now moving to the significance or scope of primary market. Very first significance is that it provides opportunity for global investment. How we can by way of primary market go for global investment? We have said that in primary market usually company come and issues its security for the first time to the public by listing itself. By primary market, business expand itself and growth for both domestic as well as foreign company, as they can come and raise their capital for the expansion purpose or for their growth purpose. Similarly, there are few firms or a few companies are there in the or institutions, organizations are there in the market who issues ADR and GDR. What is ADR now? If the exam is going in the MCQ pattern, here we can we ask that what is ADR? It is American Depository Receipt, and GDR is Global Depository Receipts. These are issued by the company. If it is an American Depository Receipt, it would be for the purpose of the investors in the US, whereas for the company who are listed in the American Stock Exchange, very few companies in India are listed in American stock exchanges. They would issue ADR for whom? For the American investor. They can directly invest in their companies by way of ADR, while GDR can be useful for the purpose of issuance of securities on the global arena, and the companies which are listed in different stock exchanges all around the world can issue GDR, and by this way it can create a pool of global investment from where we can also have the benefit of foreign exchange also. By investing in ADR, usually it is normally denominated in the US dollar. We can diversify the risk by putting all our savings in not just in one geographical market but in different geographical market. For example, if suppose the American stock market crashes a lot, but it would not have that much effect on the Indian stock market. That is what is the first significance. Second is the mobilization of household savings. Company raise the capital by coming into the primary market or capital market. Here, how they are raising capital? They are collecting the money of which is saved by the investors, or which we can call in the simple economical language is the household savings. This savings is usually utilized by the company for more productive use in the business or for their operations, for their growth and expansion. So by mobilizing of this saving, usually what companies does, it usually does the thing that they use this household savings for more productive use, and it can be put directly for the economic welfare. For example, if your money has been put in your what we can say piggy bank, or it is somewhere in your house or in your pocket, it is not earning anything to you. In fact, it is not earning anything to your country also. At the same time, if this is in your savings bank account, again it is not earning enough to you also and not to the country. Again, if this money has been mobilized by these companies in the primary market, it can be used for better purpose, and it can even though give great returns to all who are the stakeholders. First would be you as an individual. Second would be companies who would earn profit and they would give dividend to you. At the same time, as an investor, you would get the market price appreciation of your shares investment also. Third one would be what we can say economy. How economy would be benefited? As the business grow, taxes would improve, company would pay taxes that way, and even though if company flourishes and or if household savings increases, that would again have impact on the GDP of the nation, and that would help in the growth of the what we can say country. That is why how mobilization of saving is very important in primary market. Third one is the sale of government securities. When we speak of privately owned companies or public companies which are again in private in nature, whose major holding is not of government, they raise funds by coming into the primary market. Similar kind of things usually government can also do. They usually come directly into the market for the purpose of issuing securities to the public, again via capital or primary market, to fund various public developmental projects or public projects, like it can be construction of dams, roads, bridges, tunnels, schools, or any kind of things which are of public interest. By mobilizing this savings from you, it can be put for public expenditure. Usually these securities which are offered by government can be short-term bills, that can be treasury bills, which could have maturity from 90 days to 90 days to 1 year, or any other short-term notes which would have maturity between 2 to 7 years, or any long-term bonds, or inflation protected securities, or etc. These kind of things which can be injected by the government for the purpose of these kind of things. We can take example, if in this current pandemic also, these kind of securities which are floated by the government in the market is financing the government for the purpose of medical facilities providation, for the purpose of vaccination. Where are the funds coming from? Government can be mobilized by going to the primary market and raising funds by issuing securities. Last is the primary market participants. Then here question comes, who can be the primary market participant? All the intermediaries can be the part, or not all, various intermediaries are part of the primary market participants. Here what we can say, bankers, then merchant bankers, or we can say investment bank, whereas brokerage firm, underwriters play an important role in the primary market participants, because they are responsible for the purpose of sale and purchase of the securities. In case of failure, if we have discussed about underwriters in the previous segment, that if the underwriters fails to sell the particular quantity of our security to the public, and in that case they are liable to purchase the remaining amount of securities which they have promised us to purchase in the underwriting statement. Usually institutional investors, who are usually large mutual fund companies or banks, also get into the IPOs for the purpose of investing in these kind of thing. All these forms an important segment in the primary market, and hence they are important and significant for primary market. This is it for this lecture. In the next lecture, we will discuss about something new part related with the primary market. Until then, stay tuned. Thank you.